Hi, so let's get you started on this project too. Um, so I read an article put out by Gallup, which is uh, right here. If you click on this link, it brings you over to here, right? And you can read the article. Um, I am curious as to how the proportion of Massachusetts adults compares to the country as a whole. So this is topics from chapter 6, right? We're talking about proportions. To help me answer this question, we're going to do a hypothesis test. And then the question is the proportion of adults who have tried marijuana in Massachusetts different than the country as a whole? So I gotta do a hypothesis test. I know I'm gonna need some proportion and some p hat, right? So I gotta come up with my null hypothesis, and I've gotta come up with my alternative hypothesis, right? Remember my null and my alternative hypothesis are based on whatever my true proportion is, right? And this is a weird thing because we actually don't know what our true proportion is, and it's really impossible to find out because we can't ask all of these people in the United States if they've what do we want to ask them? If they've tried marijuana. So what we do is we read the article, and Gallup is a pretty big surveying company, right? They do this all the time. So the proportion they come up with is our best guess at the true proportion of U.S. adults that have tried marijuana. Because we have no other information, we will use theirs. There are so many adults in the U.S. We can't ask all of them if they've tried a marijuana. So you got to find Gallup's proportion, and you got to set it equal to whatever this is, right? So I don't know what this number is, um, but you got to find it. And then the alternative hypothesis is if they're different. So you got to figure out, is this like not equal to? Is it less than? Or is it greater than? Or you just got to figure out which symbol to use here. You got to figure out what number goes here too. These will be the same, right? Um, then what do we do? We got to find p hat. So p hat will come from we got to compare it to something, and our Massachusetts sample is decent, right? So I asked y'all early in the semester if you all had tried marijuana, and you answered me, or you didn't answer me, and I don't know if you did or not because it's anonymous. So we need to compare the national proportion. Remember we did this in Project 1 with the sample proportion. So our sample is found in question 7 of our Survey 1 project. Survey for Project 1 is p hat. So we're going to go way back to Project 1. Let's go back to Project 1 here. Project 1. So where's the data? Here it is, data. And I guess I'll make a copy. I have so many copies of Project 1. So we go down. We don't care about any of these other questions. What we care about is question 7, right? So we can figure out the p hat using this information. And if you did question 7 for Project 1, you've already figured out your p hat, right? Um, we want to know, have you ever tried marijuana? So we know the people who have tried it. We got to figure out the proportion that goes with that. So that'll be our p hat. So we got to figure out what our p hat is. I don't know why I put colons there. These are equal signs. All right. And then, so we've done that. Let's go back to our thing here. We found p hat. And then we got to do the hypothesis test. So then what we have to do is we have to go to our, wherever you keep your uh, Google Sheets calculator. Let me find mine. So many Google Sheets calculator. This is my working one. So I'll click on that one. And then you'll have to do your hypothesis test. I'm just going to kind of go over this way. Oh, no, I'm going to kind of go over this way. There we go. One more. Hypothesis test. This is some data from some last problem, so let's delete that. We are not dealing with the mean, right? We're dealing with the proportion. So we're going to plug our information into here, right? We know the null proportion, right? That's, well, we don't know it, but you will know it eventually. That is this number, right? That's our null proportion. We can figure out, you could have computed your p hat, which would have been fine. You can plug it right in here for p hat. And if you don't feel like computing it, you just put in your number of successes for x and your number of total people you asked for n, right? So then you can plug those in. So what would those be for us? Oh, I don't want to do the whole thing. So anyway, and so then you have to figure out which p-value to choose based on which one of these ones you did, right? You should choose the correct one. Yeah, and then you basically draw your conclusion after you're done with that. Right? And you'll do that by figuring out your test statistic, and you'll compare that. Or you don't need your test statistic. You can do it many ways. You can do your critical value and your test statistic, or you could do your p-value versus your alpha. Do I tell you what alpha is, or do I just have you make it up? Oh yeah, I tell you. Alpha is 0.05. So yeah, so let's put 3. And then you write your conclusion. And then we're like, oh, there are things that could have gone wrong, so you have to answer these questions that could have gone wrong. And then you gotta correct your mistakes. And then if you're interested, you can use a different p hat, which was produced by somebody else, right? Somebody a little bit more official than our stats class. If you go to oh, right here. Okay, you click on this, and you have to read through all of this. Oh my goodness, this was like an official. Look how official this is. You got to find the p hat in here, so you have to kind of like look through this thing. Oh my goodness, so many words. And you'll find the p hat that goes specifically for. It's not for all Massachusetts people, right? It's for, what did I say? Let's look. Currently use marijuana nationally. It can be found in Project 2 tab. If you would like to run a test comparing the adults that currently use marijuana nationally to the adults who use it in Western Mass, feel free. And then that's worth 10 extra credit points if you feel like doing that. But you'll basically do the same thing, right? With a different p hat, you just got to find the p hat in here, which feels a little bit more official because like this p hat was found with a much bigger number. Anyway, it's a bit of work. If you want to do that, you can. You can ask questions about that in the forums as well. So obviously this is not super formal, right? We should make this look nicer. What else should we do? We should check the rubric after we're all done, right? When we're here, we should look at the rubric and be like, do I have everything? And then you like, so, oh, it's on time. That's good. You set up, you got your proportion, your population parameter, right? You got to tell what P is in words, right? You got, what does this thing mean? You got to tell what that thing means. You got to get your P hat. You got to tell what that thing means in words, right? You got to have your null hypothesis and your alternative hypothesis. You don't have to do your standard error. The calculator will do that for you. You can put it in there if you want. You got to say the distribution of P, right? So it's got a binomial distribution, but you got to figure out what that looks like. You got to tell us a P value. You got to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything else to say. I should say that P has a binomial distribution, but here we're using our central limit theorem, right, to figure out our P value. So P will have a normal distribution. I'm sorry, X has a binomial distribution. I misspoke. It's really close to the end of the video, so I'm not going to correct it. You know what I'll do is I'll do this, right? Any particular success, remember we call success X, it will have some binomial distribution. But the population parameter will have some normal distribution. You just got to figure out what goes in here and here, right? Ooh, misspoke there. Hope you didn't stop the video right after I misspoke. That'd be rough. And then you got to talk about the different types of errors. And I think there's our what went wrong. And why is this so short? Which part what went wrong? Let me double check that. Oh yeah, these aren't questions here. These are, you gotta list at least 2 of the things that went wrong. Okay, that's why it's so short. Then you can do your extra credit if you want. All right, hopefully that wasn't too rambly. But if it was, that's okay, I guess. All right, good luck on the project. If you have questions, feel free to post them in the forum. And remember, you can turn it in late. You just lose points off of what do you lose points on? You lose points off of the on time part. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.